Hi, Melissa. So, hope you and Peter are feeling better and can do your own travel plans this weekend. Since we can't meet um, as planned, then I thought I would do a video lesson, cover the same kinds of things that I would have covered at your house. And anyhow, okay, so hopefully you've been able to practice a little bit on Midnight on the Water. And I'm going to play it here slowly and in standard tuning, so which is. Here we go. Hope that was intelligible. Against better counsel, I'm not using my best bow for this, and I really should change that. So, hang on. That's just a practice bow, but I should use a better quality bow for this. Um, so that is the basic tune, what I would call the skeleton version. So there's no bells and whistles attached to that. I do have the tune written out in tab, not in so-called dots. And here that is, and I'm going to back it up just a little bit because there's really two versions here. The top version is in GDAE standard tuning, and maybe you can make a screenshot of this with your phone so you have a record of it. Hopefully, yeah, my fingers aren't covering it up. So you have the A part right here, and then that's one line. As you can see, the tune is bracketed, or the A part is bracketed on either side by the repeat sign, and so I got all that on one line. Now the B part was a little bit more involved, and there's actually two lines there, but the good news is that, as you can tell from listening to the tune, parts of it repeat, so that if you learn them the first time through, then the second time through, it's like you already know it. So then that concludes right here. There are some rhythms there. Remember last week I was trying to think of a word which completely escaped my head, and the word was syncopation. So you can see here, like where I have not dotted, 16th and 8th note combinations. These are syncopations. When you have something like this is well, I guess I'll read from this side to that side. You have that open E note is a 16th note. The third finger A is an 8th note, and the second finger A is again a 16th note. And that kind of a rhythm occurs throughout this tune in both versions. I would say especially when we get to cross tuning, there's going to be more of that. And the rhythm is da-da-da, da-da-da. You can maybe clap it like something like that. So looking at the first three notes of the B part, on the A string you have 0, 1, 2, and they're all slurred together. So you have 0, 1, 2, but you don't play them that way. You play them 16th, 8th, 16th. Yeah, so in the context of the tune, and then again, you run into that right away again with an open E, a third finger A, and a second finger A. Da-da-dum. So the way to look at that is that the two end notes are faster, the middle note is slower. Okay, so that is the written version. So maybe that'll make your practicing a little easier for the standard tuning version. The nice thing I like about this tune, and you might want to goof around with it depending on what your comfort level is the droning. Notice I don't drone all the time. And when you're fingering notes on the D string, you hold your fingers a little bit away from the A string so that you get a clear note. Otherwise, if you don't do that, you'll get a lot of interference. And it doesn't sound good. Okay. What I'm going to do is invite you to get some questions to me if there's something that's coming a little slower to you. Maybe I can address it. So let's see, and so maybe I'll be able to address some of these things like over the phone or something if necessary to make things a little easier. Okay, here comes the fun part. There is a tuning that is used for the key of D. And that is from low to high, D, D, A, D. So, I have a video aid. Hang on one second. All right. Let's see. I believe it's right here. Nope, that's not it. Here it is. I'm going to hold up a chart. You can get your phone out and get ready to make a screenshot of it. This will be something that you'll want to have if you're feeling ready to try it. So this is how you get into the tuning. So I've labeled the strings in standard tuning at the top. G, D, A, E, from low to high, reading from, this is my left to right. And then at the bottom is the target of where we're going with the strings. Now we only have to change 2 strings. The middle 2 strings are going to stay the same. So we're going to lower the G string several steps, and we're going to lower the E string 1 step. D, E, yeah, 1 step. Okay. Here's how we're going to do it. So you take your fiddle, and just for reference, just pluck both G and D together. If you're in tune, that's what you should be hearing. Okay, now we're going to, like I said, we're going to leave the D alone, and we're going to use the peg and turn it. And the way your fiddle should be strung up is that if you turn it so that the top is going down, it's kind of what I call over the top peg turning. Then, now as I'm turning, you can hear that G going down in tone. And you can compare that. So you have to get to D, which is an octave lower than your D string. And you can actually compare them. And my ears, as lousy as they are, tell me that I'm just about there. This is where your tuner would come in handy. So, you could put your tuner on your fiddle, and you can slowly tune it down. And so the G string is going to be quite low. In fact, it's low enough that some of us call that kind of a floppy kind of a tone. You just sent me a message. I'm going to see what you said. Let's see. Okay. Good. So that was just confirmation. Okay. So now it sounds to me, plucking them, that I'm almost there. So what I can do is take my bow and try to confirm that. Sounds pretty good. If I was to knock that string out just a little bit, you'd know it. Yeah, that doesn't sound like it's in tune. We'll bring it back up. Okay, that's the G string. So now we are D, D, A, E. So we have to take that E string and lower it 1 step. And again, you can use your tuner what I usually do is compare with my A string. So the third finger on the A is the same string that we're going for. That's also D. Sounds like we're close. Maybe just a hair flat. Bring that up a little bit. We are there. Okay. And for grins and giggles, you should check your A and D strings too. Make sure that they're both sounding good. I do that with just playing them together, but you can use your tuner to tell you. But you want DDAD from low to high. We are there. The beauty of playing in this tuning is the wonderful drones that you get to take advantage of. I'll play the tune and try to show you to the best effect that I can. So the A part is pretty much unchanged. You can play it identically. It's just... And here I'm just doing hammer-ons with my second finger. It's just a little thing you can do. It's very easy to do. Okay, and then of course you can drone. Okay, and usually droning the lower string like you do on the D string is a little easier than like if you're droning on the D string and you're playing on the D string and you're droning the next string up like the A string. because you got to work a little more to keep the fingers more toward the G string so that you get a nice clear tone. That takes a little bit of practice. So, and you have this option too in this tuning, as you do in standard tuning. So you can drone on the A string. There's nothing wrong with that because D and A and F sharp, which is a prominent note here, second finger. These are all notes that are in the D chord. And any of those notes, the first, the third, the fifth notes of the scale are pretty safe for not sounding out of tune. Okay, now let's talk about the B part. The B part, really has its own identity. It's like you have a tune with two identities. And so there's some different things going on in the B part. You start out with this kind of not a triplet, but a 16th, 8th, 16th note combination. Let me just confirm that I'm talking about the same thing that you have a screenshot of. So so it starts out with that. I'm going to stop here on this D note, third finger, because I need to issue the caution that our next note is going to go to the E string, first finger. Now, because you're used to playing the D major scale with a whole step between the nut and where the first finger goes, and so it would go here. But to get that note in tune and play it with what you have to do, or what you should try, you can play the note by itself. And, well, why don't I play it that way? Let me play the B part without any double stops. Sorry. That's the B part with no double stops. Now, it would be playing the B part with no double stops would be going to the royal ball dressed in blue jeans. You certainly can do that, but why would you want to? You would want to be dressed to the hilt, and because you want people to see you and admire you. And you want the same thing when you're playing this tune. And in this tuning, DDAD, you have an opportunity to get some really incredible tonalities out of the fiddle. So let me demonstrate that. I played it once, I'll play it again. Okay. So when you get to this D note, third finger A, and your next note is going to be F. And it's easy to play that note a little bit sharp because that's what you're used to doing in standard tuning, I think. I mean, I suffer that. So every time I go into this tuning, I have to retrain myself to slide that first finger back toward the nut a small fraction of an inch, like a millimeter to use metric. Because this is what you're aiming for. The first finger, which is F sharp, with the open A string drone. That's powerful. That's a powerful note there. And it gets even better because your next note well, not your next note, but right here. So now you're on, let's see, in standard tuning it would be a G note. Your second finger E string, which is D, E, it's an F. I'm sorry, I goofed up because you're on this first finger. Remember I was talking about that, where I was talking about F? I'm not in standard tuning. That's not an F, that's an E. So it's, so you're playing an E note against an A. And that's power to me. That's, I love that tonality. And then here comes the next one. Now you're playing the second finger. So let me show you where we are if you haven't been following along. Let me locate it here. Let's see. So where are we? Here's the B part. And look at these first finger notes on the E string. You see those little circles below it? That indicates the drone on the open A string. That's the easiest way that I could describe it. Or tab it out. So then you play a couple other notes between the E and D, which is now the open note, and you get to this 2, and I have this slurred. I have 2 notes, and this is how if I was really writing this out the way you would write standard notation, I would have put a half note here. But this is how I generally do half notes. And so it gets about 2 beats. Well, I should say it gets exactly 2 beats. But, 1, 2. So it's 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so let's see, what was the other caution about that? Or was there one? Yeah, well, okay. So you know how to make this note, first finger E, which is actually an E note. Because the open string is D, then first finger is E, right? So this is second finger against an open A string drone. Okay, here's what you can do to even get more raw beauty and power out of that note. And that is to make a G chord, or pretend you're making a G chord, because in this tuning it's not a G chord. And this is the tone, the sound you're going to get. Isn't that weird? The first time I heard that sound, it sent shivers down my spine, and I loved it. Okay. And yet, one other thing to caution you about, and this is in the tab that you have a screenshot of now, is that when you go back down to the A string, right here, that second finger A, if you were in standard tuning, what note would you put right there? A D. You would put your third finger down. I'm pretty sure, if I have that right, I think that's what I would do. So the tendency that I always have is I always want to put my third finger down there, but you don't. You put your second finger, and that's in your tab. And where it is, if you look at the second line, it's that first note. A string, second finger, it's a 16th note combined with a B, a first finger, 8th note. So that's where we are right now. So coming after that, finishes. So let me play from the beginning of the second line, that 2-1 16th eighth note combination. Now I'm on those third finger A, quarter note, first finger, open A string. Now you go to the D string, 2-1-0, and you look above that D note, that open D note, and you see a half circle with a dot. You might know what that is. It's a fermata. That's what it's called. It's used in written music to indicate that that's a note that you hold. And I put that in there because if I had been thinking properly, I would have put another open D note there and connected it, slurred it with the other one in front of it to draw it out just one more beat. But I put the fermata there. It does the same thing. So rhythmically, it's a horse apiece. So let me play the B part one more time. Well, maybe I'll play it twice. I'll play without drones and then with drones. You can tell that I'm not putting in all the bowings. I'm putting in some of them, but the message here is don't worry too much about the bowings. I would put a little more importance on getting the rhythm right, and as much as you can get the work on the drones and get comfortable with them, that would be super. With drones. Stand. Oh, I played the A part. I'm sorry. I was just going to play the B part right now. I'm standing so that you can see my fingers. So I'll do the B part with drones. See that chord? Couple final thoughts. Like I said, don't worry too much about bowings. We can work on that later. Bowings are important because it affects the sound of what a tune sounds like. But like I said, there's other things to get. And there's a lot of stuff in here. The other nice thing about this is that if you look at the B part, you can find, you look at the first part of the B part, and then you can find the same notes almost right below it, so that there is some repeating going on. So like in the first line, if you get those syncopated notes on the A string especially, then when you get down to the second line, you got those notes coming up again. You've already done that. So that's a plus for you. Here's another thought. The whole purpose for doing this is just to expose you to playing in another tuning. When I started fiddling, the first 2-3 years or so, I guess, I was reading exclusively out of written music. And then I went to the Augusta Heritage Arts Festival in Elkins, West Virginia, and bam, I was not only playing by ear, whereas before I had not done any of that hardly, but I was playing in another tuning, in this case A-E-A-E. So it's possible. I mean, I'll grant that I probably had a lot more playing experience when I did it than you do at this point. But that's not to say that you can't get it. I very much believe that you can get it with good instruction, and hopefully that's what I'm providing right here. This is just an exposure. This is not something that I want you to spend, be overly preoccupied with. I just wanted to expose you to playing in another tuning. Now, to get back to standard tuning, here's why I asked whether you have a tuner. Because with the G string, I don't think you have to worry too much. I would still use the tuner. Put it on your scroll and tune your peg up slowly. And I'm doing it by ear. I'm pretty close, I think. Okay, so the G is pretty much back. Now we got to worry about the E. The E is going to come up one step. Now, I have another student. He's 11 or 12 years old, and I do lessons with him by Zoom. And his dad usually tunes his fiddle. Well, a few weeks ago, he hadn't done it. So the student had to do it himself. So I'm trying to give him some pointers remotely on how to tune, especially the E string. He had to bring it up. And he did exactly what I thought he would do. He turned it too far and broke the string. So put the tuner on and you just slowly turn the peg a little bit, not even a full revolution. I'm just tuning it like I barely turned it at all. I'm going to turn it just a little bit more, not much. Now I think I'm sharp, so I'm going to bring it down, and I'm going to use the fine tuner to do that. And right now you should be close enough, or I should be close enough, that you can get the rest of the way in by just using your fine tuners. I don't recall whether I think you have 4 fine tuners on your fiddle. So if you don't have any, and some violins don't have them, just be careful tuning the string up as opposed to down. That's where the danger is, going up. And use that tuner to tell you where you are. Okay, that's all I've got to say for this lesson. I'll check in with you, see how you're doing, and what you think of this whole thing. I think it's kind of a nice tool to be able to do this. So, and I'll see you in a few weeks.